Hi everyone, this is the CMS Conf Podcast, your go-to source for everything CMS, marketing and modern web development. Today we are diving into the impossible, running a full WordPress site directly in your browser without any servers. Our special guest is Adam Zieliński, the architect of WordPress Playground at Automattic. If you ever struggled with complex setups or just want to see the future of web development, this episode is definitely for you.
Hello everyone, welcome to CMS Podcast. Today, together with Adam Zieliński, we will talk a bit about running software in the browser, the idea that seems impossible until it is. Adam has quite a lot of experience in this matter because he is a WordPress Playground architect at Automattic. So I think we will start with the first question, which goes, why did you even thought about creating WordPress Playground? Because let's be honest, when you think about WordPress, the first thing you think about is how to run a server. And you decided, hey, let's do it without the server.
I was writing a tutorial about something in WordPress, and I wrote the tutorial, and then it was time to write the setup steps. Man, that was annoying. Like, there's so many things that are happening in there. You have to set up a web server and a PHP with it. And if you happen to be on Windows and you don't have Docker already installed, that is very difficult. And I really didn't want to write up that section. That's the story. I thought, well, there must be a way, instead of explaining it, I just want to show them, right? Like that's what the best writers do. That's what happens in theater and cinema, show, don't tell. So I wanted to do that. And the first idea was, of course, as you've mentioned, servers. But then it's expensive. You need to maintain it. It's a security nightmare, a privacy nightmare also. I didn't want to go there. And so the next logical step was, man, it would be so convenient to run this thing in the browser.
And that's how WordPress Playground was born. Because you decided you won't write one page of tutorial, you decided to write something that didn't exist back then for WordPress.
It was more like 15 pages of setup steps, and some of them existed, some of them didn't. But more or less, yes. I've spent like 100 hours to save 3 hours.
Which is like a typical developer approach when it comes to automation, right?
Yes. Only this time it worked surprisingly well because I'm still spending time on that.
That is true. And look, because not everyone is familiar with WordPress Playground, I mean, we already kind of mentioned that it's kind of running WordPress in the browser. But tell a bit more about it, how it works. And if someone has some doubts about, is it even worth it to spend our time on it, what demo would you show to them to kind of make them, wow, that's pretty amazing?
WordPress Playground is WordPress that you can bring to any device and run it in any other context, I would say. So it works in the browser as in client side. You don't need a server. You can be offline. You can be on Chrome, Firefox, Safari, on a phone, in a bunker with a bad Wi-Fi. Like it's going to work. You can embed it in a desktop app. There is a studio from Automattic. You can embed it in a CLI app. There is Playground CLI. You can embed it in a browser extension. There's one for learning WordPress. You can embed it in. I can keep going with this. Like you can embed it in quite a few places. What's a demo? Well, you go to playground.wordpress.net. You get a WordPress instance. You can modify it. You can install themes, break stuff. It's fine. Like it's private. It's yours. If you want a pretty site in there, you click a few buttons and there's a gallery of pre-made sites from so-called blueprints. You can create one of these with a click. If you want to experiment with something on your blog, Right now, I'm working on the function that brings a live site into Playground. So you'll be able to do that with a click of a button. And then also on the roadmap is pushing the changes back into your site. And then all of that will be integrated with Studio, which is a desktop app built on top of Playground. And there you will also have an AI integration. All of which is to say, Playground is quite a vehicle for integrating WordPress with your workflows, making things easy for you as a developer and also for users. Put it on a website, demo your plugin in there, demo your theme, put your thing in there and let people play with it. No infrastructure costs for you and all the safety for them.
True. To be honest, one of my favorites usage of WordPress Playground is the integration with GitHub, when you can easily preview all the pull requests. And
Yes.
I remember that during WordCamp Gdynia, I think Saidi showed how they are using Playground together with WooCommerce for pull requests, and also the translations. Finally, we can see what we are translating instead of just guessing where this phrase was even used. I don't even see
Yes.
it. And for me, those were like the two most amazing ones that showed that WordPress Playground is not just kind of a toy, but it can be used in so many amazing cases. So
Absolutely. And just to add to translations, since we don't have visual for this, you can actually go through a plugin and see all the translatable strings highlighted as green or red. You can click them right there, translate them in the UI, even integrate an LLM with that if you happen to have an API key, and submit all the translations right from that workflow. So you don't even need to download anything. You just can go to a WordCamp, to an event, and contribute in there.
yeah, and I remember that before setting up everything was kind of waste of 1/3 of the contributor day, because you had
Yes.
to install everything, and this makes it you just need 5 minutes extra, and that's it.
Yes.
And now let's deep dive a bit to WebAssembly, because WebAssembly is one of those technologies about which we hear quite a lot from time to time. This will be one of those groundbreaking technology that at some point will change everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I do feel that very often it's kind of, like the next year will be the year of Linux. So WebAssembly is used here and then, and I see much more production-based cases of it. But still, it's kind of a niche. And how do you think about it? Does WebAssembly really delivers, or it's still a bit more of a promise rather than reality?
Oh, it totally delivers. And I think it is everywhere. We just don't see it since it's a part of the site or a product. So it's in Playground. In WordPress 7.0, I think 7.1, it will be a part of Core for converting images. I know I've just heard recently that apparently Adobe uses it for a bunch of their products. I think Autodesk uses it, Figma uses it, Notion uses it. I think it's there. I don't have any numbers to confirm the usage, but I think even some NPM packages these days actually embed a WebAssembly version. And if you use something like ESLint, there is a separate package that ships a WebAssembly binary just in case your specific OS architecture or CPU is not supported by the pre-built things. So I would say that I don't know about a year of WebAssembly, but it's a production-ready technology. It works in all major browsers. It all works server-side. It's there.
So the only thing we can say that they kind of missed is the marketing thing, because you don't very often hear about it, and more and more cases of it appears that WebAssembly is somewhere down in the stack, but
Yes,
sadly no one mentions it.
I I do agree. I do not hear a lot about WebAssembly. Weirdly, because it is such a powerful thing. You can take a software that is compiled that works on a desktop or a server, and you can bring that into the browser, which is crazy. And you can get features like networking and disk access and multi-worker. Why is there not more of WebAssembly out there, like in the marketing message or in articles? That is a very good question. If you look for it, you will find it. There is a ton of excellent use cases.
But yeah, the marketing is definitely not
Yeah.
their stronger suit, and they do kind of deliver on the promise that that we kind of mentioned in the title of our episode, that it's kind of the idea that sounds impossible, because really few years ago, if someone said, yeah, you can just run PHP without the server in a browser,
Yeah.
that's it. It seemed really impossible, and now we see a lot of those use cases. And I even remember that I think Simply Static is using WebAssembly to convert WordPresses to static websites, so they are not running servers.
I believe so, yeah.
So that's also a very interesting approach of how you can use it.
Yeah.
And
I remember, like, to add to that, when Playground was ramping up, there was this thread on Hacker News, and so like there was this one person that kept asking, "Why do you need it? Like, we have Docker. You can just use Docker." And I feel like this question was also showing up in different places, in different variants. It wasn't clicking that much with people. What is the value of shipping this software in the browser, right? Like, you get a sandbox, you get like a performance hit, and there are solutions for that. Well, the huge advantage is that you just need to click a link, and I can send that link to my mom, and my mom will never use Docker.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is one of the most amazing things about Playground. The ease of use, that you just have a link, and for many people, we can say the magic just happens. That's it. They don't need to know anything about it. It just works as it should, and it's sandbox, it's secure. So that's the most important.
Yes.
And tell me, because WordPress Playground is no longer just an idea for you to not write a tutorial section, but a real thing. It already powers a lot of workflows and everything. And I'm guessing that some people are using Playground in the way you imagine they will use, so for testing and so on. But I can also imagine that you saw some ways of use that you would never ever suspected that Playground would be used for something like this.
Yeah, there is a few of these. So one of them is someone got a WordPress site up in blockchain with Playground. That was interesting. Another one was Alex Kirk built this my.wordpress.net thing, which it's Playground, but so when you go to Playground WordPress.net, you get a new Playground every time, and there is a way to save it, but it's primarily use cases for testing. Well, what Alex did is you get the same site every time, and you get to write content in there, install apps, analyze your messages you exchange with other people through Beeper, and then it tells you, hey, it looks like with this person, you are the one who starts the conversation like 98% of the time. And that is a very fun use case.
It is. I'm almost sure that was the last thing on the list. You would thought, yeah, people will build kind of semi-social websites based on Playground, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like that was not on my list at all. And with this thing, I'm now thinking it would be super fun to take this and use it to like build apps, but like just apps for maybe me and my wife and like my family, right? Like an app for us, like a home cooked app that we all can use on our devices. Like on the phone, it synchronizes, and like we're not there yet with all the synchronization stuff, but you can see how extending this idea forward that could have happened. There was something else. Let me think for a little
I
bit.
think that when you mentioned about the application, that someone built a note-taking application for Apple based on WordPress Playground, if I remember.
Yes, there is an app called Block Notes. These days it's built differently, but at the beginning when it was published in the App Store, it was just WordPress embedded in the app through WebAssembly. And at the time, that was weirdly the easiest way to embed the Gutenberg editor in the app. Today, we have the Gutenberg framework that made it a lot easier. So the app uses that. But at the time,
Yeah,
things were new.
it
Yeah.
started like this. I also remember that during some WordCamp, you showed me some Markdown to Gutenberg blocks converter in GitHub, something like this. So,
Oh,
but
yeah.
this was your idea, so yeah, it was like,
Yeah. And these things are out there. So you can take something like Gutenberg documentation, which is Markdown stored in GitHub, and you can click a link, specially prepared link, and it will import all of that into Playground in that format that Gutenberg uses, and you can tune it to support different formats, right? Like if you have like index file with the Markdown structure, or you don't have it, or you use like a manifest file versus a YAML header. So yeah.
okay. Okay, so we were talking a lot about all the cool and positive stuff about WASM. That it's so portable,
Yeah.
that you can like almost do magical things with it. But
Yeah.
let's be honest, there are always some cons, drawbacks, and stuff like this. So, like,
There-
what were the biggest ones you kind of hit in your road when working on Playground? And did you had like some that was okay? I don't know how to solve it at all.
So the biggest thing for me is the cross-browser support for specific WASM features. It is getting better, but promises integration with WebAssembly is a big one. So PHP is built in C, and C is inherently synchronous. There are ways to build asynchronous programs, but PHP is a synchronous app. And so, whenever PHP makes a network call, normally what happens on your computer, if you run a native PHP, it will typically make a system call. The system will handle all the networking for PHP and tell the program, hey, like you're good to continue. And while the network call is happening, it will like basically wait in a specific line of code. So the execution will not advance. Well, this is not how things work in JavaScript. In JavaScript, when you do a fetch call, your execution continues, right? And when you integrate a WebAssembly program with a JavaScript program, you don't get a different networking stack. You still have to use all the JavaScript bindings for calls. So networking, you get asynchronous networking in a synchronous program. And integrating the two is somewhat easy with the latest WebAssembly API, which is called JSPI. short for JavaScript Promise Integration. But the previous spec, called Asyncify, is very, very, very painful to work with. And I'll just say that anytime a network call is made, you need to find all the functions that are in the call stack at that time and list them at a list that you use as a compilation flag. And if you miss one of these, you will get a fatal error.
Oh my.
And the big thing with that for Playground is Chrome supports it for like maybe 2 years, 3 years, JSPI. Firefox joined sometime, I think, last year, or maybe the year before, but Safari, it still doesn't support it. It is there in the tech preview, and I'm very excited for the next major Safari version. But until then, we are maintaining the Asyncify build of Playground. And it's difficult.
I see. I mean, even when for the most of our chat you were smiling the moment when you started talking about, I saw the pain and sadness in your eyes. So
Yes, like anytime an Asyncify error pops up, we don't get quality debug information. Like the error just don't tell you exactly which function did you miss. So you need to jump into a multi-hour procedure that involves multiple rebuilds, each of which takes time. And then once you eventually find it, you need to verify it for all the PHP versions because the other versions may have different function names, and they often do. And at the end of that, it's 3 days later. You don't want to live anymore, but your PR finally works.
at least that's a success, right?
Yes.
And look,
There's more. So one thing that we still didn't figure out in the browsers is multi-process support. This is so much easy in the server environment where you actually get a shared file system that you can interact with. The current WebAssembly build tools do not cover everything that Playground needs. So, for example, when we work with the SQLite database, the SQLite driver wants to log specific byte ranges inside the database file to avoid data corruption and loss. And this is implemented using a system called fcntl on Linux, or I think like logx on Windows. And these are not supported in the EM-Scripten toolchain. So you don't get an implementation that works across operating systems. And so Brandon Payton, who's working on Playground with me right now, he's the team lead. He spent, I think, like 2 or 3 months just implementing that for Node.
mhm,
And then in a way that works on Windows and works on Linux and works on Mac. And these are different ways.
of course.
And it integrates the native APIs when required, because you don't get access to these things from Node. You need a compiled module to get to interact with these system APIs. So that was another painful thing. And we see like there is a few more of these. And we also don't have a good way of doing that in the browser right now. We are working on one. I hope it will come sooner than later. But right now, Playground in the browser is single-threaded.
Which of course kind of affects the performance, especially if you want to use it for something more rather than just kind of a small demo. I can imagine at least.
Typically, it would. However, since all of the async things are async, so whenever you make a network call, the JavaScript thread is actually still running. And when you want to write something to like a persistent storage, it can also be async. The only thing that affects performance is actually blocking CPU time. So whenever you have like a very involved computation loop, and there aren't many of these in WordPress, very luckily. So when one PHP instance is waiting for something, we are running two more PHP instances within the same thread. So it's like a simulated multi-worker in an actual single-threaded application, and the performance is pretty good. It would be better, of course, with multi-processes, but it is pretty good.
Amazing. And look, because right now we still were mostly focusing on WordPress, but WordPress isn't the only CMS that was experimenting with WASM. I mean, in WordPress
Yes.
we can't even say anymore that it was experimenting. I mean, kind of Playground has become a normal part of the WordPress ecosystem. But I know that
Yes.
Drupal and Typo3 were also doing something with WASM. Do you know what they can learn from WordPress, and on the other hand, what we can learn from their experience?
Sure. So they have been implementing their own playgrounds, and I know that Typo3 actually forked WordPress Playground and reused that plumbing, since we are investing a lot into the PHP WASM implementation that we have, and it handles a lot of things that other attempts at PHP WASM do not handle. And there is a lot to handle. And I've seen that playground, and it works like pretty well. And I'm very grateful to Typo3 folks because they've not just like built this, but so Typo3 uses things like PHP INTL extension and a couple of other PHP extensions. And they've been contributing their work on integrating these extensions into the Playground application. And now, with our efforts combined, like Playground actually ships the INTL extension. This is quite amazing. So I would say this is an example of a very successful cross-ecosystem collaboration. And with others, just recently, by the way, like I think maybe last week, someone from PrestaShop opened an issue in the Playground repo about some like bug here and there. And that's how I learned PrestaShop is building a playground for PrestaShop using the same foundational packages, which is also very cool. And now, thanks to that, Playground is becoming better because we get to fix problems that are limiting other projects. So I would say, like, number one thing I would love to happen in all these projects where different CMSs are integrating Playground or building their own WebAssembly solutions would be collaborating and finding ways to invest in the same thing to make it synergetically better for everyone, as opposed to siloing and building separate solutions that are like kind of there, but not quite there. Like we are all stronger together. And I would really, really love to see a whole lot of collaboration in the CMS industry.
So, kind of having a CMS WASM package that would be like a foundation for every other playground would be kind of a dream come true, right?
Why not? Why not? Well, when we talk about CMS package, that would involve also Node and Python and other foundational technologies, right? So how do we reconcile that? But there are ways, right? And there are things that all the CMSs have in common. So all the CMSs need some kind of web server, and all the CMSs have to deal with some kind of traffic balancing and sometimes a database, quite often actually a database, right? And access to syscalls, so file system locking in JavaScript promise integration. So all these elements, they could actually be reusable between different stacks. And to be fair, like there is an initiative in the WebAssembly ecosystem that would make that kind of reuse much easier. It is called the component model, and it is pretty much, I want to say, reusable interfaces for distributed packages. So with that proposal, I could publish a WebAssembly package and declare that this package has a single call that's start server, and it accepts a IP, a port, and some kind of server configuration. And you can integrate that package into your project, and that call is there and it will work with this specific argument types. And so maybe that could go beyond servers, and there could be a package for locking. There could be a package for low-level network socket access, and all that type of stuff that different CMSs would integrate. That proposal, I don't think it is production ready as of today, but there was a WASM Conf in Barcelona a couple of months ago, and I know that was a big topic there.
Yeah, I can imagine, because it'll be kind of like NPM or Composer for WASM. That would simplify a lot.
Yeah, it is not a package manager. No,
Yeah.
I just want to clarify that. It's about the interaction model between different components. But add a package manager to that, and effectively, yes.
And look, because right now we are mostly talking about, for some reason, PHP solutions, right? Because it turns out that Typo, WordPress, Drupal, because Drupal also experimented with WASM, and PrestaShop, which again, PHP, they kind of decided to simplify some things sometimes for developers, sometimes for end users, using WASM. On the other hand, if you look at JavaScript or Node-based CMSs, they don't seem to go this way. I mean, I understand that JavaScript is already a language that browsers understand. But this language is just one part, as you mentioned already. The database layer, a lot of other things that are required. And still, if we look at most of the JS CMSs, they prefer just install all the dependencies, run a local server, and you're good to go. Why do you think they didn't went this road in simplifying the process even more?
Very good question. I do not have a full answer. I do have some answers to this. For WordPress Playground, a big feature request was, can we build blocks in the browser? And building a WordPress block requires a bunch of NPM dependencies like Webpack, like React is an NPM dependency, like React, like some development packages. And so I've explored doing just that. And specifically with web browsers, it turned out to be something of a challenge. So very broadly speaking, you have two paths to integrate, to run Node app like NPM in a browser. Well, you can ship a JavaScript WebAssembly engine, such as V8, and ship it as WebAssembly. And I don't think there's a mature production implementation of that in the open source space yet. I haven't seen one. If it's out there, like, please find me on socials and let me know. I would love to know about it. That part is, from my explorations, quite challenging. The other route you can go is, since the browser already has a JavaScript engine baked in, you could polyfill all the Node imports. So like FS, Net, Sys, all of these. And I've tried doing that. There's so many of them. Node.js standard library is actually built in JavaScript to a big extent. That makes it easier. That just means you need to polyfill all the system calls. And here we get to the crux of it. You would need to ship a kernel built in JavaScript to support all that. And the WebAssembly build tools out there do polyfill a kernel to some extent. So you get some syscalls. But as I've mentioned earlier, you don't get something like FCNTL, for example. And there's a lot of other things you do not get. And you need to provide all of that if you want to have a running node instance. And that includes a lot of multi-process things that are also challenging, actual shared file system, which you can do, but again, like sync, async dichotomy, it's difficult. So my short answer would be, we don't have a JS kernel.
Okay, so despite the fact that the browser already knows the language, it turns out that going the whole WebAssembly route is much more difficult when we compare it with PHP case, which seems. I wouldn't
Yes.
say it was simple because, like I said, I saw the sadness and despair in your eyes when you were discussing some topics, but it was simpler in PHP.
Yes, very weirdly, right? Like that's not what you would expect. But that was my experience so far. Like in PHP, there is no question like should I ship the code like and integrate with the browser VM? Like you can't. You need to ship the runtime. So the answer there is very clear. And then PHP runtime, I think, is much simpler to WebAssemblyze than JavaScript runtime just because it is synchronous. I know there is a async proposal in the PHP working groups, and I think it's moving fast, and maybe we'll see it in one of the next upcoming PHP releases. I'm very interested in what that will do to our ability to continue providing WebAssembly builds. Like we will have to figure it out. But yeah.
And another thing, because you have kind of become an advocate for WebAssembly in CMSs and so on, and because that's kind of how I even heard about WordPress Playground, listening to you at some WordCamp. And tell me, who would benefit the most in other CMS ecosystem if those CMSs would also invest in WebAssembly in the playgrounds like this? Would it be mostly for developers, for users, maybe contributors?
All of these groups, for users, this is a much faster access to the CMS. No installation process at all, right? It's right there. And then you can provide all sorts of tools, right? Oh, I like this color scheme. I like this type of content. Here's some of my company materials. Let's see what that would look like in the CMS, right? Oh, I like it. I want to deploy it. So it gives you very low barrier to entry to try your product, play with it, and do something valuable with it. For developers, it's similar. So you get to test code changes. You get to onboard a new person in an easier way just because you can ship the runtime, the development runtime as a self-contained thing. For contributors, absolutely. There is a project that we've been trying on WordCamps that it's an Electron app and you run it and it sets up the full WordPress core contribution environment on your machine, complete with PHP, Node, all the Node dependencies, any PHP dependencies. It has Git bundled in. It's the whole thing. So it's one app, you run it, and you're good to go. And it also guides you through, oh, you've made this change. Well, preview it here. Great. Start APR with this button. That solves a huge problem we've had at contributor days where, well, like 50 to 100% of any given contributor day, where WordPress core contributors would show up, like prospective new core contributors, most of that time would go just to set up their environment. You would think it would be much easier, especially with access to core WordPress folds. But have you ever tried doing it on a fresh laptop without even a terminal, with just Windows?
Yes, I did in Lublin.
On a conference
after 40 minutes.
Yes.
it was more or less done, but the contributor, they also started now to, we wasted an hour of our time. So.
40 minutes has got to be a record. I mean, like the fastest record, not the slowest. I've seen that taking like the 8 hours full day, and it wasn't even ready by the end of it. I've seen that too many times.
Yeah, I mean, the lucky part in Lublin was that I could switch to my mobile internet rather than the hot Wi-Fi. So that probably gave me an edge competing with others. But yeah, that's a real problem. That is true.
Yeah. So I know Jonathan Bossinger and Juan Margarido, and they and some other folks, Philippe, they are taking this project, that Electron environment that I've just mentioned, and they are bringing it to other WordPress events and advancing like how easy it is to use, just to destroy that barrier to entry, right? There is no reason a new contributor couldn't go to WordPress.org, click a button that says start contributing, and then through a website or through that app that I've just mentioned, be ready within the next like 1 to 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. So, if you would try to kind of advertise to any CMS, hey, you should really invest some of your time into a WASM Playground. You'd probably use the breaking the barriers as one of the most important things that having such playground gives.
Yes. My pitch would be others are breaking those barriers. Other CMSs are making it easier to use, to contribute, to develop with. Like if your CMS is not doing that, like you're falling behind, right? Your market share will go to the projects that make effort to get closer to the user and to invite the user in.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with you here, especially that sometimes, let's be honest, WordPress even out of the box has a more or less simple setup. There are much more difficult CMSs when it comes to even running them. So,
oh yes,
still, WordPress made a huge effort to make the famous 5-minute install even simpler, and some of them requires much more knowledge, time, and kind of patience, because sometimes things just don't work out of the box.
yes.
Okay,
It gets easier with LLMs. It gets easier.
That is true.
But still.
Yeah. And I think it's time for our last question. And for this, imagine that now we are looking at the crystal ball, and we'll try to see the future. So,
yes,
do you think that in around, I don't know, 2 to 5 years, spinning a full CMS in a browser tab will be just a standard developer expectation? Something like now we have, just spin Docker. And do you think that in like those 5 years it will be, just use the WASM Playground for insert the name of the tool?
I think so. Yes, these WASM tools are becoming very accessible. They have rough edges, but they work in all major browsers, in all major local JavaScript runtimes, in Electron, like what have you. There's really no reason not to ship those tools. And sure, maybe more difficult with things like Node.js, maybe a little bit easier with things like PHP because of some prior work. But I really think we need those tools to just work, to just be there for the user, right? And if I have two if I'm choosing the tech stack for my next thing, and I can play with one thing, but I cannot play with the other thing, I'm lazy. I don't think I'll take, like, unless the value proposition is super compelling very clearly, I probably won't take the time to do all the setup unless it's very easy, right? As a developer, maybe I'll do Docker. If there's no Docker, I may not go there. As a user, I have even less patience. So if I can try something and it's good, I don't need to check all the other options. I'll just go there. Now, my wife is very different. Like, she likes to try all the options and then choose the best one. So she will probably like give more chances to different CMSs. But that's not me. Like, I'm like, okay, like, this works. It's right here. I'm done.
It's good enough. It's good enough.
Yes.
And it did, and they made an effort to kind of show how good they are.
Yes. And I've read this sentence. So I'm reading this book by Brandon Sanderson. It's from the Stormlight Archive. And there was this thing I've read today that you can tell a lot about a person by the way their workshop looks. So do they keep it clean? Do they respect their tools? Do they take proper maintenance? Do they cut corners? Or do they take the necessary effort to address problems before they become bigger problems? Right? And so I think there's a metaphor of that in like a user perception of various value propositions. Like, if I'm the user and I see a very sleek website, tells me it solves exactly my problem and gives me a demo I can use right there, versus I see a website without that demo, like, I feel like here's someone who took a much greater care of me and showed me kindness. By showing kindness to the tool they're maintaining, making it easy to use, bringing it right to me. And I think that kindness will go a long way.
Yes, I totally agree with you, and especially that, let's be honest, we have less and less time, and this extra effort that some solutions will make for us to make sure that we will try out their product. Yeah, it's something very, very important. That
Yes.
totally agree with that, with the metaphor that you that you quoted, because that's the thing. That's the thing.
Yes.
So because that's kind of wraps our our podcast for today. Before we will say goodbye, tell all our guests where they can find you.
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on WordPress.org. My name is Adam Zieliński. I'm on X. I really want to move to Blue Sky. I should do that, but I'm still on X. I'm on WordPress.org Slack. If you want to have a conversation, you can DM me there, and I'm also on the #Playground channel on WordPress.org Slack. And yeah, I'm in these places. My name is Adam Zieliński. I build WordPress Playground. Well, it's not just me. There's an entire team of fantastic people and community contributors that I really want to recognize. And Playground would be nowhere without those great people. Thank you so much for helping make WordPress and web a better place for everyone. And yeah.
So, Adam, thank you so much, and thank you for the interview, and of course, also huge thanks to all the contributors for WordPress Playground, because they all did something remarkable. They kind of made something that seemed impossible possible.
Yes. Just as a last thing, there is a post on make.wordpress.org/playground that summarizes year 2025 for Playground. And at the bottom of that post, there is a list of contributors, of everyone who contributed to Playground that year. And that list is much bigger than I expected before I wrote that post. And this is to say that when we all work together, great things happen. And we're so much stronger together than each of us is on our own. So let's come together and build great things.
I totally agree with you. And with this very beautiful thought, we have to say goodbye. Thanks again, Adam. It was a pleasure having you with me. And see you next time. And of course, don't forget to see Adam in Gdynia in November during CMS Conf, when he will be talking a bit more about WASM in general and how other ecosystems can benefit from it. So thank you again. See ya. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
That's all for today. Thank you so much for listening to the CMS Conf podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to follow us and stay tuned for more. Catch you next week.